Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and we are getting into all the news surrounding the Ravens and free agency. We've been connected to some guys, one in particular we want to talk about. But before we do, make sure to hit the subscribe button, take a second, turn on the notifications, hit the like button, and leave all your comments regarding this video or anything as far as Ravens content goes below. But that person that we are talking about today, Glenn, is the one and only J.J. Watt. Really interesting to see how this, how his free agency journey goes. First time he's hitting the free agency market. So we got a lot to talk about here. But where you want to start? There's been some teams that have been linked to him. Where do you want to go first?
All right. So I think what we're going to do in this video, we're going to describe why the Ravens would want him. And we're going to describe why he would choose the Ravens over numerous suitors. Apparently, he is very heavily sought after by a bunch of teams. So we're going to explain why his best choice would be the Ravens and why the Ravens want him. Because believe it or not, Jimmy, there's still fans out there. They don't want this guy. They think he's too old. They think he's beat up. They think he's a retread and a guy that they're not interested in. I mean, I have – so I'm going to start there, and I'm going to tell you why they're wrong, Jimbo, okay? So let's remember, he played all 16 games last year. He didn't miss any games last year. He played all 16 games 2 years ago. Yeah, he missed half the season in 19, but he played – out of the last 2 seasons, he's finished 2 of the 3 in completion. And by the way, 2 years ago, he had 16 sacks in a season in 2018. He had just 5 last year. But I'm going to get into why he had just 5 last year, okay? I'm going to start with the fact that he is the most double-teamed edge defender in the entire league with a positive rush win rate. He was double-teamed more than Joey Bosa, more than Myles Garrett, more than Jadeveon Clowney, Chase Young, Khalil Mack, you name it. He was double-teamed almost 28% of the time, Jimmy. So still commands the attention of the opposing offensive coordinator and their offensive line. I'm going to go into another statistic, a couple more statistics I like. The win rate, because we want a pass rusher, right? We know we see a couple that may be leaving with Judon and with Unique. So we need some pass rushers. Well, he is the 8th overall pass rush win rate in the league at 22%. Leading that category is his brother TJ at 29%, but still 8th in the league overall as a DN/O-line or outside linebacker pass rush win rate. So he can still get it done. Then you want to talk about, well, we want a guy who can do both. We don't want just a pass rusher, right? In Baltimore, we like to be able to stuff the run. Well, guess what? He can do that. His run stop win rate was 6th overall in the league at 29% of the time he beats that guy in front of him. I mean, that's pretty darn special. So I think I've made the case why the Ravens would want him. The guy's still a two-way player. He's still feared. He's still respected by the opposing offense, and he's a force to be reckoned with. So
yeah, and so I just want to say to all you guys out there, we last time we talked about this, a lot of people said he's washed up, he's old, he's this, just like you mentioned. So give us some stats behind your reasoning. Let us know what you think, because I think that Glenn's stats are extremely compelling in the argument in favor of J.J. Watt joining the Ravens. I mean, to bring in a guy he's only 32, right? And I know he's had his history of injuries and things like that, but he's still not, he's younger than Calais Campbell. I didn't hear anyone saying that about Calais. Not a single person. So, and I realize he's had more of an injury history where Calais has been reasonably healthy throughout his career, but still, I think that Glenn's points are compelling. So if you have some arguments in opposition to Glenn, leave some links below. Let us know what you have as far as stats go, because like you said, I think that those are some really compelling arguments. But we understand.
Let me just finish that. Doubling down on your point. He played 91% of his team's defensive snaps last year, over 1,000 snaps. And by the way, just for people say he has a history of he has a minor history. He's played 10 years, right? He's 10 years in this league. He's played in 16 games in 7 of those 10 years, Jimmy. He played in 100% of the games in 7 out of the 10 years.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
I mean, that's pretty damn good. So, yeah, he's had a couple years where he had major injuries. But outside of those, it's not like he can't play through a thigh injury. He's played through a ton of injuries. He just can't play through the ones that are, season ending.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can't walk,
Yeah, I
You know,
mean, so
you
this
can't
guy's
play.
tough too, man. He plays through a lot of injuries and still is effective.
Absolutely. So we've made the case, and I think Glenn has done a great job at making the case for his value as a player, and you know, especially on the Ravens. But let's kind of turn the coin. Let's kind of flip the coin over. Let's talk about why he should join the Ravens.
Okay.
So why, if you're J.J. Watt, how? So let me ask you this: Let's talk about an elevator pitch. If we're the front office of the Ravens, we get J.J. Watt in an office. We're saying we're not letting him leave until he knows exactly why and is compelled to sign with the Ravens. What are you starting with? Let's talk about some points there.
Well, man, there's so many. I mean, I guess I would start with the culture. I would look at the Ravens' track record of bringing in veterans from across the league, and all of them, every single one of them has raved about the organization in Baltimore, how it's top flight. They, honesty from the top to bottom. You talk about Eric Weddle retiring here after what, 2-3 years after spent 12 in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Vonta Leach, very brief time here, retired here as a Raven. Steve Smith Sr., same scenario. Derek Mason, I mean, Anquan Bolden, you name a guy, they've all loved it here in Baltimore. So I think he'd be happy from an organizational standpoint. He just saw his former defensive coordinator and a guy he likes a lot, Anthony Weaver, hired here to be a D-line coach. So he would be familiar with the D-line coach and have already a relationship with the guy who's going to be coaching him most directly.
And how much do you think that any of that? How much weight do you think is behind that? The familiarity with Anthony Weaver and things like that in his decision making. Do you think that plays into his decision making, or do you think it's kind of like a cherry on top type deal?
I mean, I guess we don't know exactly how strong their relationship is between
Right.
Weaver and Watt, but I can tell you this. I mean, just look at anybody's career. If you're going to a new job and you're unsure of who your supervisor is, could be a jerk, could be somebody you don't respect. Well, he doesn't have those worries. He don't have those fears. He knows he respects and gets along well with his direct superior, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I think it may not be a very large part, but I'm sure it's nice to have him there. Tom Condon, his agent, is an agent of Calais Campbell. So all he's got to do is get on the horn to Calais and ask him his thoughts since coming over from Jacksonville. And I think he'll be very satisfied with what he hears there.
Certainly.
You talk about a championship-ready organization that feels it's this close from getting over the hump and making some noise in the Super Bowl. That's got to be pretty tempting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the offense, Jimmy. I know that you have some things to say about the quarterback. Look, he's leaving one great quarterback, but he's going to another one if he comes here to Baltimore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at the end of the day, this is kind of how I break it down. If I'm, once again, not in J.J. Watt's shoes, but if I am, and I know that I'm coming up I'm in the twilight of my career, and it's about, he wants to, I think already J.J. is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yes.
But to go out as that guy that did everything and never got a ring, I don't think he wants to be in that category. There's a lot of great players out there, and it's the ultimate team game, so I get it. There's still a lot of respect for those players, but I know he wants one. And so I think you have to start with the quarterback. You have to. Yep. And, because at the end of the day, you're hooking your cart to that proverbial horse, right? Like that's just what it is. And so I think coming to Baltimore to play on a team that has a guy that's so unique like Lamar Jackson. And look, JJ's seen him in consecutive years and seen what he's done to them in consecutive years.
Yep.
Right. So I think that the fact that we played them in consecutive years and there's familiarity there will actually bode well for us.
And also that quarterback controls the most ball control, run heavy offense in the league, which would mean less snaps for an aging defensive end, right?
Yeah, it gives him an opportunity to be a little bit more of a specialist, not in that he's only going to be a pass rusher, but he has an opportunity, like you said, to play more in spots in that he knows that our defense isn't going to be out there for the majority of the game. 9 times out of 10, we're going to win the possession battle in the game. And then the other thing too, you talked about coaching that I just briefly want to mention here is that you're coming to play for Wink Martindale, who in my opinion, and based on a lot of statistics that are the most important for a defense, He's the best DC in the league.
Mm-hmm.
There's stability at the role, there's stability in the coaching staff. And then on top of all that, you talked about the culture, but coming to an organization where not as offensive player, as a defensive player, that how many organizations are really, look, anyone says the Ravens, the next word is what? Defense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are synonymous with, and there's not a ton of organizations like that left. Like maybe the Bears, like you get that about like Pittsburgh, but there's not a lot of them left, right?
Mm-mm.
And to go to an organization that truly values a defensive player and has had Hall of Fame defensive players come here and love it, be drafted here or trade or free agency, whatever, I think also carries a lot of weight. But I want to ask you this question. I'm sure you have a couple other points, but let me ask you this. John, well, not just John, sorry, the front office, I think they're really good at recruiting. They strike, and they, like Steve Smith didn't even take any other appointments after the Ravens.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Do you think that if what do you think our win percentage is? Our chances of landing JJ if we get him in the room?
Yeah, if you get him in the room, I think it's very, very high. There's been a few guys I can remember. Who was the D tackle that McCoy? Remember, he kind of
Gerald McCoy. Yeah,
he was
spurned us a
one
little
got
bit.
away. Yeah, he was one that got away. He didn't buy into the young quarterback here in Baltimore because that was the year that they drafted Lamar, and he decided to buy into Cam Newton in Carolina and pick him. But outside of him, and I tell you what, John was pretty visibly upset in that next press conference that he got away. And I think if you asked Gerald McCoy and gave him some truth serum, he regrets that decision to this day. But
because he would have been on that ride for 2019.
Exactly. And then, you never know what happens. So I would think that if he is in ball, the only thing that worries me is with a guy that has the kind of clout that JJ has, he could decide before he even starts making these trips that he's going to go on at least, 4 of them or at least 3 of them. He could make that decision going into it that I'm not going to sign with anyone until I see all 3 pitches or,
And
however.
that makes sense, right?
Yeah. With a guy that has the kind of career and clout he has, it's just looking for the cherry on top being a championship. And I'm sure he wants to have a good time along the way, not just go for, the highest likelihood. I think it's a package deal.
Yeah.
You want to have a team that's ready to win. You want to have this, you want to have that, you want to have a bunch of stuff. So I think that if we can get them in the building, the chances are really good because look, I think the facilities in Baltimore are second to none. I think the way that players are treated in Baltimore is second to none. You mentioned Wink and also, and the fantastic coordinator he is, but also the way he keeps his guys fresh and doesn't overwork his guys. I think would be something that JJ would like to hear. And then, if you can't play with your brother, right? If you can't play with him, you better be able to play against him twice a year.
Yep.
Because you'll at least be able to see him and talk, have dinner and stuff before and after the game. Or so I think that there's just a ton of good reasons to come to Baltimore. But I know we want to get into some reasons why we don't. Why you wouldn't want to go to these other suitors, because I see a bunch of other names popping up. So let's get the first initial ones out of the way that are no brainers, okay? Because the Cowboys were high on the list, and no, there's no. First of all, are they ready to compete for a championship? Heck no.
Yeah.
They have very limited cap space, and they don't even have Dak under contract yet. So we don't even know who's going to be under center for them. But we know one thing, they don't have a lot of space to do it. So if they do want to bring Dak back, they're going to have to cut elsewhere or find some money elsewhere. So I don't think they're even a thought in his mind, even though he wouldn't have to move very far. He'd be able to stay in the state of Texas. But I'm still going to say that they're out of it. Okay. Let's go to another. I mean, look, Pittsburgh Steelers were getting a lot of the hype because his brother's there. Yep. They might be in the worst cap nightmare of the entire league. I mean,
I'm excited. I'm excited to get into this one if I can.
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah. So, all of you Steelers fans out there that are like, J.J. Watt's coming to Steelers to play with his brothers, I'm going to tell you right now, there is very minimal chance of that happening. I would bet a lot of money that JJ is not in a Steelers uniform next year. Number one, just like you were articulating a second ago, their cap issue is it's an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
So number one, I realize, and people can combat me. Ben is going to renegotiate. Okay, sure. That'll take off a portion of it. And Vance, McDonald and Pouncey retiring takes off a portion of it. You're still over the cap.
Yep.
And then you have a ton of question marks. Left tackle, Alejandro Villanueva is a free agent. So who are you going to play at left tackle? Ben is 30,000 years old. He's aging in dog years.
Yep.
Like, how much can you, even if you are a guy that, like JJ said, I could maybe just play one more year. Even if that is the case, what is Ben next year? The teams were daring him to throw the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, who is going to run the ball? Another free agent, James Conner. You going to put your money on Benny Snell and McFarland back there?
Mm-mm.
I mean, they're terrible. Juju is gone, right? He's already garnering a lot of interest in the Jets and the Raiders. He's gone.
He's definitely gone. Yeah,
he's out of there. And then they can pay him right now no money. So JJ, are you going to pay to play in Pittsburgh?
Right.
And then if they find money, they're going to give you the least amount of money. So I don't think it gives you the best chance to win. And I don't think you're able to make the most amount of money. So it's got it, like, it's a give and take. So if I get the best chance to win, I might take the least amount of money. But that's not even the case there. Ben is they're trending the absolute wrong way. Pittsburgh, to me, best case scenario, are third in the AFC North. So I don't see there's any way that he goes to Pittsburgh. I would be shocked. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't really add much to that. That pretty much sums it up. I don't know how. And even if the Vance McDonald, by the figures I'm seeing, even if they say Marquise Pouncey, so Marquise is he's a nice cap number, but it's still not enough. And I see, so he's a $14 million cap hit, and then Vance McDonald's $7 million. Well, they're $30 million in the red. So even if that comes with no dead money, which I'm pretty sure they're still going to have dead money on both of those guys. I'm just not sure exactly how it works out, because if they were to cut Pouncey, they'd have a $6.5 million dead hit. And if they were to cut Vance, they'd have a 2.7. So I don't know how it works out with retiring. But even if we gave them all that money back and just cut that whole cap number down, there's still $10 million in the red. And so they would have to commit a bunch of money to Big Ben and somehow lower his $41 million cap hit. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I agree with you. I think that we can count them out. Okay.
Yeah, they are at the last exit. Like, if you drive 95 south, right, and you get to the toll, there's one exit before you go through the toll. Because after you go through the toll, there's no coming back. So the Pittsburgh Steelers going through the toll is going into this year without planning for the future. They have not been planning for the future. They've been holding on. They need to plan for the future. They need to take exit Keith Avenue, whatever. I think it's like exit 52 or something. But don't, if you're a Steelers fan, I don't even think you want to see this. I think there needs to be some extensions done, some retention of their guys.
DJ, Minka. Yep.
Right. This should not be your first priority.
No.
So I just don't see it happen. It joys me to let Steelers fans.
Yeah, I think this is more for the fans. I don't see the organization really. I mean, they got enough guys up front, man. They got a good front with Tuitt, Hayward, TJ. They got some nice players.
Yeah, they're going to lose Dupree, but they, like you said, they still got enough firepower.
Yeah, exactly. So
Bugs, that other guy that came on this year as well.
Yeah,
he's another big guy. Yeah,
they got some guys. So I think they're going to be fine defensively without him, and I think they're going to have to be that way. So then I see the Bucs. I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it makes a little bit more sense because they do have some cap room, and of course they just won the Super Bowl, so we know they're Super Bowl ready with all indications of Tom Brady coming back. They're going to be right there fighting for it again. And they are losing it. Well, right now they're expected to lose Ndamukong Suh. Now he could choose to come back, which I think a lot of veterans are going to try and go to Tampa to try and chase that ring. So I understand why. But if they just showed that they can win a Super Bowl with their guys, I would only assume that their main goal or intention is to bring back their guys because they've already shown they can win with their guys. So they're probably going to want to throw some. Now, I think that they're kind of resigned to the fact that they're going to lose. What's the receiver?
Godwin.
Yeah, Godwin's gone because I think they're going to try and bring back Antonio at a cheaper price. And Mike Evans mentioned he would take a cut. But if they want any chance of bringing back Shaq Barrett, then they're going to have to, kick out some money. And him alone could cost near $20 million a year. So if I was them, my focus would be how do I get my guys back in who we know can win a championship with us? So I think that their main goal is going to be to retain their current players and bring back their free agents, because let's remember that everyone who scored in that Super Bowl was not on the Tampa Bay Bucks the year before. Okay. So they need to bring those guys back. If they want, Leonard Fournette, it's not going to come free. If they want Antonio Brown to run another, nice little China route on the right-hand side against Matthew, they're going to need to pay him a couple of dollars, and Gronk, same thing with Gronk. We expect Gronk to be kind of stuck together with Brady, but he ain't going to play for free. So he's
right.
I
think this year with incentives, he made what, 10 million or something like that. So
exactly. So I think that their remaining cap space is going to be dedicated to bringing back their former players that they won the Super Bowl with.
Yeah. Now let's get into what I think probably has the most compelling argument in the Green Bay Packers. And not that I still think, and I'm biased to the Ravens, but I think objectively, if I'm a defensive player, the Ravens are always in my top 3 to 5 because they care about defense. Mm-hmm. If you know the history of the NFL and you're a defensive player, you want to go to a team that values your position, right? Everyone wants to feel wanted and valued. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And defensive players are absolutely that here in Baltimore. But I think that as far as an argument's sake goes, the Green Bay Packers have some things in their favor in that J.J. is a Wisconsin kid.
Yep.
He went to the University of Wisconsin, grew up there, so he'd be going to play in his backyard. Mm-hmm. So I think that pool itself provides them with some ammunition. But I know that they're in cap nightmare, right, Glenn? They're what, 28 over the cap right now?
28 in the red, yep.
And they don't have a situation with like Ben where I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to say, sure, strip it all down. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't think he's doing that because they've already showed that, well, we got your replacement. I don't think he feels that he's got the same good graces, right? But
they made it clear he'll be back.
Right. No, absolutely. So, and I don't think he's like, yeah, sure, I'll be back on a discount. No.
Oh, no, that doesn't seem like Aaron Rodgers' personality.
No, and then on top of that, he said, dude, I'll take this and I go get me a first round, a first-rate wide receiver that you drafted for, he could say so many things. So I just don't see that happening. But yeah, so I think the as far as the Packers go, to me, they have a good argument because he's going home and because they were in an NFC Championship game. But Glenn, something that you mentioned, I don't know if you have them in front of you right now, but Aaron Rodgers has not done well in the NFC Championship games and big games in general as of late. It's been years since he's won that big game to get over the hump, right? Now, I realize that you can say the same thing about Lamar, but once again, on the upswing, not on the downturn of his career. So what's your take on Green Bay?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say that's hurting Green Bay, on top of their cap space, but it's all about an allocation of funds in the NFL, right? And we've heard in Baltimore that people are like, you're spending too much money on the defense. We want to see some more funds allocated to the offensive side of the ball. Well, let me give you a couple of their biggest cap hits, Jimbo. Tell me where they play. Tell me what position they play. Where Zadarius Smith has a $22 million cap hit. Where does he play?
Plays on the defensive line.
He does. He plays on that edge, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How about Preston Smith? He's got a $16 million cap hit. Where does he play, Jimbo?
On the other side.
So if you mean to tell me you have $38 million already in cap space in just your 2 edge guys, are you really going to add at least another 8 to 10 and bring in JJ to play the same position or move him inside a little bit? I find that hard, very hard to believe. So I just think it's a matter of allocating funds, and they've already spent all that they're going to spend on that position. Yep. So, why bring in another guy who can really just do, I think Zadarius is definitely performing. His $22 million cap is a lot, but he's a darn good player, and he's certainly playing up to that contract. And Preston Smith as well has been balling since he's gotten there. So I think for those reasons, I don't know how they can reasonably say, we're going to spend $40 million on just edge guys and then still build a championship team around Aaron Rodgers. So for that reason, I think they're out of it.
Yeah,
they're gone.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm sure there's some other dark horse names out there. But the more I have this conversation with you, Glenn, and I hope that you guys out there watching agree, is that there's a couple things that are lining up for the Ravens. We have, in my opinion, of those teams, at least off the top of my mind, I think we have the biggest need at his position.
We have the biggest need, but before, I don't want you to wrap things up yet because there's one other suitor, Jimmy.
Okay, who you got?
There's the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Cleveland Browns, I think, in my opinion, have the strongest case against, against the Ravens. Not as
Okay.
strong, but the strongest, even stronger than the Packers and their ties to Wisconsin and them being, of course, Super Bowl ready as well, which we do view them as one of those teams.
Sure.
But the Cleveland Browns right now have $21 million in projected cap space, and they do have a need there. Olivier Vernon had an injury towards the end of the season. I don't expect them to bring him back. Because he's getting older and they would have to re-sign him if I'm not mistaken. So, but opposite him, they have Myles Garrett, all-world DN, just got $100 million. And honestly, he's still on the upswing. We don't know how good he's going to be because he's still getting better. They have that run game. They have that ball control offense we were talking about. They got the best running back duo in the league. But the one thing, Jimmy, and I'm going to let you take over from here, that they don't have, that the Ravens have, outside of culture and a winning, but what's the one thing they're really missing?
Quarterback, man. It's got to be. I'm so glad you teed this up for me. I can't believe I forgot about the Browns. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Because if you're a guy that's thinking, you know what, I got 2 years left and I won a Super Bowl. Browns, Baker Mayfield. No and no. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing those things because easily in the past 10 years of me watching football, I've watched football longer than that, but in the last 10 years that I can think of, I don't think there's been another guy another quarterback that's come into the league and has been coddled and given as much as Baker Mayfield. Think about all the weapons he's gotten. I mean, he needed receivers after that first year. They got him Odell Beckham Jr. They got him Jarvis Landry. He needed a line. They got him the highest paid right tackle, and Conklin, and then they drafted the kid to play left tackle. So he's gotten so much and has gotten to a divisional game.
They made their tight end the highest paid tight end in the league.
Right, exactly. On top of having Njoku, so and like you said, they have the backfield behind them. They had a solid front defensively. Now their defensive backs were below average, but certainly I don't think on a quarterback side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, I haven't seen so many resources be dedicated for to my quarterback in order for him to be successful. And Baker's had minimal success in comparison to what they've given him. If Lamar Jackson was given 1/10 of what Baker Mayfield has been given,
right?
Just imagine.
Yeah. I mean, that offense could not be more quarterback friendly with that offensive line. I mean, JC Tretter, Conklin, Jedrick Wills, monsters from Joel Patonio, all big name offensive linemen, monsters, right? And then, best running backs behind them. Maybe the best three tight end. I mean, you talk about a group of tight ends with Njoku, with Austin Hooper, and with the young guy.
The Florida Atlantic. I'm forgetting his name too, but he's really good.
Yeah, he's there he is. I thought I just had him. But anyway, you look him up. He's a great tight end. Bryant, I think his name was, right? Is it
last
Bryant?
name
Harrison Bryant? And then the receivers on the outside. Don't forget about Donovan Peoples-Jones, who turned out to be a darn good player, who was the #1 high school recruit coming out of high school when he went to Michigan, and didn't quite live up to that. But so I think that all that they've given him, and yes, he's had some moments. I mean, when Odell Beckham went down, he had moments, but I still would rather bank on Lamar Jackson rather than the turnover machine that is Baker Mayfield.
Because let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was also going to say, what also benefits pass rush? Like, if he wants to have some pass rush this year, what helps
the back
pass
end
rush? Right. Name a better secondary than the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll wait, because it's going to be a long, long wait, because their corners are definitely #1 in the league. There's no doubt about that. And could they use a more natural cover safety? Maybe. But look, those safeties are not a liability in coverage. And Deshaun Elliott brings the wood in the run game.
Yeah, he just won most improved player by PFF.
Exactly. So, that secondary is definitely the best in the league, as far as, definitely the best in the North. If you're comparing them to the Cleveland Browns, it's not close. So to me, the Ravens end up being the best case for him, and it's a no-brainer for the Ravens wanting him. They have the need.
Yeah, like you said, even outside of the quarterback, think of, the Browns are on the upswing, but think about, you got 2 years left. Why would you go to the Browns? It just, they're still, while they're proven, they're still blazing their trail, right? They haven't gotten to the promised land. We've done it twice in 25 years. We're due again. Like, we're due if you use that same math once a decade. Like, I'm okay with, I mean, obviously I want more than that, but once a decade, that's That's a winning franchise who's competing throughout, obviously, those peaks, and the valleys
This
aren't
isn't
very
a
low.
team that goes those high peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
You're talking competitive all the way through.
And so I like I was mentioning, I think a couple things line up. One, I think it's fair to say of all those teams we mentioned, we have the greatest need at the position. With you talked about Unique and Judon, but also McPhee could be gone, Tyus Bowser could be gone. We're talking about an empty room.
Yep.
So let's start it off with J.J. Watt, and maybe he can teach Snacks Ferguson a couple of things. But so I think need is there for the Ravens. We have respect, relatively speaking, to the other teams. We have a decent cap situation, depending on what the final cap ends up being. We have enough money to pay him. The best quarterback, other than Aaron Rodgers in that list, to me, is Lamar Jackson. But Lamar is much younger, so maybe
Tom Brady was on that list too.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. So, right. So those two are, but they're at different points of their career.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that. And
how many Super Bowls have the Browns been to?
Yeah.
Been to 0.
I mean, it's, yeah. So all those things align with a great coaching staff, stability of the coaching staff, a great culture. I think it ends up being a no-brainer. I can't believe I'm so excited for this because I think JJ is a great candidate. I hope that you guys are on board too, because Glenn has sold me by giving me the stats. And then you go back and you think about playing through the broken nose, playing through the broken hand, playing with the club, all those things. And he's another man.
He plays like a Raven.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's born to be in purple. Like, JJ, we know you're watching, dude. You're born to wear purple and black. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. Get in the comments section. Do you want them? Do you not want them? What do you think the chances are? Can the Ravens pull this off? And we'll be watching, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.